welcome back to Ghouls Night In, the spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark.
And I'm Midge Munster. And today, Penny, we've got a bit of a Monster of the Week episode, as it were.
Ooh.
So today we're going to be talking about a particular character that is seen as a monster, a guide, a goddess, and everything in between.
Hmm.
Today's subject originally comes from Russian and East Slavic folklore, and the earliest documented appearance of her occurred in the 17th century in woodblock prints. In this part of the world, oral tradition and storytelling was incredibly important to people across all social classes, and skazga, or folk tales, were told at feasts, weddings, workplaces, and during times of rest in the home. Throughout Russian and East Slavic folklore, there is one character that reigns supreme, showing up in stories
Mm.
throughout hundreds of years of history. So today we're going to learn a bit more about the complicated and nuanced character of Baba Yaga.
Yes. Oh, man. Hell
Yes.
yeah. Hell yeah.
I have been wanting to do this episode for quite a while. I'm really excited to talk about her. What comes to mind for you when you think Baba Yaga?
Um, so I think that I read a children's book about Baba Yaga
Oh
when I
yeah,
was little, and I
cool.
also remember Baba Yaga playing a major role in Bartok the Magnificent, the direct-to-video sequel to
Yes!
Anastasia. I loved that movie.
Yes, that did come up in my research, and I had actually never seen that, but I'm excited that you have.
Oh, man. Oh, yes. And yeah, fascinating character. Most recently, for anyone who's an actual play fan, the um Never After, the fairy tale folklore season of Dimension 20 featured the Baba Yaga as an NPC who was
Yeah,
very cool.
amazing. Well, for those of you who may not be as familiar with Baba Yaga, she, like I said, is a character in Russian and East Slavic folklore. She is most frequently portrayed as a hag witch type person who flies through the air in a mortar and pestle. She
Yes.
uses her little pestle as a rudder to steer, and she sits in the mortar. It's giving eggshell witch. We love it.
Oh yeah, witches be flying in whatever they can get their hands on.
Whatever they can, if they fits, they sits.
Oh yes.
She is probably most famously known to live in her little log cabin with no windows that moves around on chicken legs.
Chicken legs,
Chicken
yes.
legs.
Love that chicken leg house.
Love that chicken leg house. Love that chicken leg house.
Yes.
Uh,
See, that's what Popeyes needs to start selling.
that
Chicken
is,
leg house.
yeah. uh, but her, no, now I've given myself the giggles. Uh, Her house is usually depicted as being surrounded by a fence made of human bones.
Mm.
And some legends also say that the house will not even reveal its door to you until the magical phrase, "Turn your back to the forest, your front to me," is uttered.
Pretty
Uh,
cool.
pretty friggin' cool. Good folklore, if I do say so
I'm gonna
myself.
say love a speakeasy somewhere with a password. I'm all about it.
You have the Baba Yaga password. Wait,
Yes.
this is a great idea for a pop up bar.
Oh man, that would be so good.
Coming soon to Kansas City near you. to wherever you find a Midge, there will be a Baba Yaga pop up bar. Barba Yaga, am I
Barbara
right?
Yaga.
I'm
Barbar
actually
Yaga.
bye. Goodbye, everyone. I'm done.
Fired yourself.
Fired myself. Anyway, so Baba Yaga herself is frequently portrayed as a witch. There are a lot of references in her stories to her bony leg, which could either just be that she's very frail and thin, could also be a literal exposed bone leg.
Sure.
She also has a long beak like nose that is sometimes made of iron that helps her identify visitors by their scent. But one thing remains true across all tellings of her tales, and it is that she is extremely powerful. She controls time, she has connections to life and death, the elements, She has a very Mother Nature type archetype in a lot of her stories, with strong associations to wind, animals, the forest, the earth itself, as well as the underworld.
Mm.
And some historians have even hypothesized that she may be a Slavic interpretation of Persephone,
Oh, okay.
which is a cool way to think of her. I don't know that she necessarily fits the bill in all aspects,
Yeah.
uh,
That's
but
some creative interpretation there,
yes,
but there's some
but
similarities.
in early tellings of Baba Yaga, she was not always the hag witch. She was, or the crone. She
Mhm.
was more of a goddess,
Okay.
and she, you know, she just had a grand scheme of things that she covered. But she did kind of have that one foot in the world, foot in the underworld thing that I think people, draw that line to Persephone.
Yeah.
But her name, Baba, is that part is a shortened form of babushka, meaning grandmother.
Mhm.
However, that word is also used throughout history for midwives, fortune tellers, and sorceresses, which obviously she is a bit of a witch, it would seem.
Yes, a little bit.
Just, maybe. Now, the etymology of yaga is a bit more challenging. There seems to be no direct translation to that in English or in the Slavic
Mm.
languages. Some people say it was meant to mean horrible or horrifying, while others have said that it is connected to the Russian verb meaning to ride, which would make sense, riding around in her little
Walking
mortar.
house
Yeah, her house
or
and her
mortar and
mortar.
pestle.
But what we can assume is that the Yaga part of her name definitely described her in some way. There is a Southern Slavic counterpart to her called Baba Yaga, and that translates to horned grandmother. The Roga means she has a horn.
Oh.
So Yaga likely described her physically in some way or her essence.
Yeah. I mean, I do like if if they're like, "Oh, it does kinda mean, like, horrifying or whatever," to just be like, "scary grandma"
Scary
is a
grandma.
pretty
Yep.
pretty good
Or like
good
saw
archetype.
some that interpreted it as like meaning evil as well, so like an
Mm.
evil crone grandmother character. Uh, but as we got giddy about a moment ago here, one of my personal favorite parts of the Baba Yaga lore is her hut.
Yes.
It's just a really striking visual, and it's been depicted a number of very cool ways by artists throughout time. But if you're anything like me, you may have found yourself wondering why the chicken legs.
Sure.
There is some belief that her hut is based on the architecture of early nomadic hunters in Scandinavia and northern Russia. The Sami people would build their storehouses on top of like dead tree stumps
Mhm.
or just large platforms to keep animals from rifling through the huts or to prevent different forms of like rot.
Mhm.
And if you look at these structures, they look remarkably like a house on bird legs of some sort. Uh,
Mm.
Even the roots of the tree stumps at the bottom look like chicken feet. So I could definitely see where the lines would get drawn there, and they have these storehouses have kind of like a an ominous presence about them, just because they look so different than what we're used to seeing. Uh,
Yeah.
and again, to prevent thievery and any other like tampering, they also don't have any windows, so it definitely gives that witch hut vibe.
Yeah.
But there are also some historians that believe that this had to do with a particular I can't talk today, particular burial practice in Central Europe that involved placing bodies on wooden platforms that were raised up on tall poles, and they would do this to allow the bodies to dry out completely,
Yeah.
and then preserve the bones. So these platforms do kind of have that same silhouette as the hut with the long legs and the flat wood on top. So that definitely could have influenced her depiction as well, especially with her connection to the balance of life and death and her
And her
hu-
bone
her
fence.
human bone gate. Exactly. Um, so we're not exactly sure, but we can definitely say that it is from the Slavic and northern Scandinavian architecture and things and
Mhm.
practices that influence that. So while Baba Yaga's hut is very spooky and she herself is very scary, she is not a purely evil entity. And even even though she does threaten to eat children a lot, which is fine, we all have done it, you know.
What you gonna do?
Yeah, you know when you're out with your girlfriends and you're like, should we be bad? Should we?
Should
Should
we
we?
eat a kid? Can we get a
Should
kid for
we?
the
Can we get
table?
just a small side of children for the table? I'll have one if you have one. No,
I'll
uh,
always have one.
I'll always have one that keeps me young. But no, she's very almost a bit of a gray character. And I think that really reflects kind of her connection to nature and the forest. Like
Mhm.
she's not really good or bad. She just
Yeah.
is, you know, she's just a being of the world.
Yeah.
And many of the stories surrounding her focus on a young protagonist that's entering adulthood in some way, whether that be just coming of age or like getting married. And the protagonist is often seeking help from Baba Yaga in
Mhm.
some way. And while that is always depicted as like a dangerous task, like they're definitely like, ooh, yikes, you got to go see Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
She's also very fair. And most of the protagonists like win her over and all of them escape if like
Yeah.
she never I don't I mean obviously I have not read every Baba Yaga story in existence, but several things I read said that like even though she threatens to like eat people a lot and stuff, that no one was actually ever eaten in any of the stories, and the protagonists usually get away from her.
Mhm.
um, but most of them also like will do some form of manual labor for her, like cooking or cleaning or sewing. And the ones who are kind of let go usually also show her and her familiars respect and politeness.
Yeah.
And so that way we kind of see that these stories are to show children what it takes to be a successful adult. It's like, here's what you have to perform around the house, and here is how you should treat people.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like this may be something that you were gonna say later, but I feel like that makes sense with kind of the scary grandma vibe where
Right, the
it's like,
grandmother archetype.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like she has expectations from you and you need to show respect and you need to do as she says, but like she doesn't have like bad intent
Right.
necessarily for you.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And she is kind of representing someone like an elder in a different place in life than these young
Mhm.
protagonists.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally hit the nail on the head there. One of the most popular tales in Russia of Baba Yaga is the tale of Vasilisa the Beautiful. And she's kind of like our Cinderella,
Mhm.
a very similar story type. So Vasilisa is a beautiful girl, has a kind heart. Her mother passes away, and her father remarries a woman with two daughters. Sound familiar?
Hmm.
So her stepmother and sisters, of course, treat her poorly. They're jealous
Sigh.
of her beauty and her kindness. They make her do lots of labor around the house, hoping to kind of break her down. But she has a secret weapon. Before Vasilisa's mother died, she gave her a doll that she told her to keep with her at all times, and it would protect her. So every night, Vasilisa gives the doll food and asks it for advice. And then every day, the doll helps her finish her chores.
Mm.
Yeah, I want that doll.
Handy.
Where'd you
Right?
where you get that at? Amazon?
Right? Can I get one of those?
Put that on my Christmas list. But so one day, the one of the sisters smothers the hearth fire in the house and asks, well, not asks, tells Vasilisa to go out and get them a new fire and to ask Baba Yaga for a new light for the home. So Vasilisa goes out into the woods. There's a really cool part of this story too, where we see as she's wandering through the woods, she sees these different horsemen. And the first one is white and brings like the morning, and the second one is red and brings like the sun up, and
Ooh.
then the third one is all black and he brings like the night, obviously. And these horsemen show up in different stories and are said to be kind of controlled by Baba Yaga, and that this, plays into her being kind of this time sorceress where she's in
Yeah.
control of the day and the night. So I just thought that really has almost nothing to do with the story. It's just very cool imagery. But Vasilisa eventually makes it to Baba Yaga's hut, which, once again, decorated with human bones, surrounded by stakes with human skulls on top. But
Spooky.
the eyes of the skulls are glowing,
Mm.
which, hold on to that tidbit, becomes important
Mm.
later. So she meets with Baba Yaga. She's like, "Hey, I need a new light for my house." Baba Yaga, in classic Baba Yaga fashion, says, well, I'll give you that if you do a bunch of chores for me, or I'll eat you. Your choice." um,
That doesn't seem like a great deal.
yeah, right? If that was on a, like, Let's Make a Deal or something, they're like, "This briefcase just says, I'm going to eat you." And you're like, oh,
No
damn, no
thanks.
thanks. So Vasilisa gets tasked with all these chores that are like making a feast for 12 people, preparing wheat, weaving cloth, a whole bunch of stuff. But once again, she got a secret weapon. So she feeds the
Mm.
doll, and the doll helps her complete all the tasks. And Baba Yaga is like, "Hey, wow, you actually did all that and you did a great job." So she gives her a light for the house in the form of one of the human skulls with the
Sure.
gleaming eyes to return home with. So Vasilisa takes the skull home. However, when she gets there, the skull tells her to place it on the table, and the light from the skull's eyes like protrude out and burn her stepmother and stepsisters to ashes.
Sweet.
uh, and then she marries a czar and lives happily ever after.
All
So,
right.
uh,
Thanks, Baba Yaga.
thanks, Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga was like, I know you asked for a light for your fire, but what I heard was you
What?
need
Murder
laser
your
skull
entire
to murder
family.
your family.
But again, you know, even though that was like, ooh, yikes, scary, we also see that like Baba Yaga can be kind, or at least like fair to those who deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, she's looking out for her.
Yeah, she came through. She came through. So that's kind of how she was depicted in folklore.
Mhm.
In modern times, we've seen her come up a lot. As Penny mentioned, there were several things there that she's come up in the last several years. She's also been featured in operas, comic books, and cartoons. We've seen her in Sandman, Hellboy, Supernatural. I found out through reading, apparently, she's also in Fortnite now, which I think is
Does she
awesome.
dance? That's
I
the only
don't
thing I know
know.
about Fortnite.
I gotta find out because I used to play Fortnite. I haven't played in a long time, but my husband and I have been talking about playing again. I'm like, if I have the option to wear a Baba Yaga skin, you'll
Then
never
hell
get me
yeah.
out of the game. Yeah. Something else I found out that I thought was really cool. Miyazaki has even said that Yubaba in Spirited Away
Yeah.
is based on and inspired by Baba Yaga, which is very
Oh,
cool.
I didn't wanna say that before because I wasn't sure, and I was like, "Do I just think that they're similar because they both have Baba in their name?" But I was like, "Yubaba's a lot like Baba Yaga."
Yeah, nope, you're 100% right.
Hell yeah.
So that's very cool as well. And I mean, she's got her like bathhouse, which I guess could be kind of her hut in a way.
Yeah, and, like, she turns into a bird, so there's, like, l bird legs
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, very cool. So we've seen her a lot, and that's very cool. She obviously still resonates in a lot of different
Mhm.
ways. While she's a really complex character and definitely has her flaws, like all of us, there's an interesting collection of stories right now called "In the Forest: Tales of Baba Yaga." And the editor of that, Lindy Ryan, really had this quote that I thought summarized it really well, and I wanted to read it. So it says the essence of Baba Yaga exists in many cultures and many stories and symbolizes the unpredictable and untamable nature of the female spirit, of Mother
Ooh.
Earth, and the relationship of women to the wild. And I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Because once again, I mean, we've talked about this so many times on the pod, like witches and their depiction and how like women and female identifying people have like really kind of reclaimed that as this proto-feminist like
Yeah.
archetype. And so I do love that Baba Yaga is becoming a feminist icon. I think
Hell yeah,
I think
she
that's
is.
really neat. So, whether you see her as a mentor or a monster, I think it is really easy to see why she has remained so prevalent throughout folklore and history. If you find her fascinating, go out and find yourself some Baba Yaga. There's a lot of really cool literature and things inspired by her right now. And definitely check out that Into the Forest Tales of Baba Yaga also as a kind of a both collection of stories but also like a bit of a feminist think piece if you're
Yes.
if you're into that, which if you're listening to this podcast I know you are. That is my little delve into the witch's hut.
Yay!
If you are enjoying Ghouls Night In, we would love for you to leave us a review or rating wherever you listen to us. That really helps us reach new listeners and let us know we're bringing you topics that you enjoy. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, or if you're listening somewhere that won't let you review, you can always shoot us an Instagram DM, leave us a comment on Spotify, or even comments on Podbean if that's where you're listening. And sometimes we read those right here on the
Ooh.
podcast. I believe Penny has something to share with us today.
I sure do. I have a Spotify comment,
Ooh.
which came in on the Mary Shelley episode.
Oh, perfect.
This is from Zoe S., who says, Mary Shelley is buried in my town, and the pub near the cemetery is called the Mary Shelley.
Wow.
You're right. She says, Your podcast is amazing. I adore you both. I'm a vintage Halloween fan, so you're my A plus faves. Ghouls rule.
Hell yeah.
I think we need to go to that
I was gonna
pub.
say, so what I'm hearing is Ghouls Night Out at the Mary
Hey,
Shelley.
at the Mary Shelley, hell yeah.
Do we need to do a we need to do like a Ghouls Night press tour where we just go to all these really cool places together?
Yes, please.
Well,
This
thank
is see, this
you.
is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a live show tour, but it's not of places that people want to see us. It's only places that
We
we
want
want
to
to go
go.
to.
Yeah. Well, we'll have at least one fan that's in her town, so
See, there you go. Zoe will come.
we'll have a really intimate show with Zoe at the Mary Shelley pub. Well, thank you so much for your review. And if you would like to see more from the podcast, you can always follow us over on Instagram at Ghouls Night In Pod. And if you're looking for me, you can find me across the web at Midge Munster.
And you can find me at Penny Snark.
And until next time,
Good.
good.